What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful weekend. Let's get into this Love and Marriage Huntsville recap, steering into scandal. So it begins with a quick flashback of Nell going through the house in St. Thomas, screaming and ranting and raving about her missing nameplate. And Mel, she tells her, listen, you've been complaining since you stepped foot off the plane, which is true. Now, whether people want to blame it on the alcohol or whatever, a missing name tag is not a big deal. Melody planned that whole trip. And listen, I'm not a millimeter, but anybody who plans an entire trip for multiple people knows that you can forget something as small as a name tag. And the fact that she did get her own room and she was still complaining, it's like, okay, there's no pleasing Miss Nell. Obviously, I feel like it's something deeper. But that's why I put these two pictures up, because we're going to get into how Nell really feels about Melody later on in the episode. So then we cut to Martell and Destiny. And so Martell is asking again about Melody. And I'm wondering, when is he going to move on and stop focusing all his attention on Melody, right? I really feel like Martell is so upset that Melody did not stay like Nell Fletcher, right? Like so many people that he accused, Marceau of treating, and that Tisha stayed. Like he really thought that he could do what he wanted to do, get his mistress pregnant, and that Melody was going to stick by his side. And when she had a backbone and enough self-worth and self-respect to say, no, I'm out of here, he can't let it go. So he's pumping, Destiny for information about the girls' trip. And then she's talking about her e-commerce store. And one thing that I guess I'm a little bit confused about, she said that she signed a lease for like a distribution center for her e-commerce store. And my thing is, if Madani, back when her, brick and mortar boutique went under, there was allegations of her not paying her staff. Now, she said it was due to COVID. I don't know what the reasoning is. But my question is, why would you sign a lease when she already said that she was having financial trouble? Why would you sign a lease? Why couldn't you just sell candles or whatever your product is, you know, out of your home like Melody does, right? Like she has a room dedicated to her 7th Avenue line, because signing a lease for a distribution center, unless you have Stormy Still money and sales, you have to work up to that. That doesn't make sense to me. But that's me. Let's move forward. So in the next scene, we have Nell Fletcher. She came over to Mel's house, and Melody confronts Nell and, says that what you said on this interview, you said that I was draining. You said that, just all these things, right? Disparaging her character. And Nell Fletcher's like, what? No, I never said that. What are you talking about? So Mel pulls up the receipts. She's like, don't worry about it. Here's the video. So she shows her the video, as we have in the bottom right picture here. And Nell tries to walk it back. She's like, well, I probably should have said that Martell was draining. Yeah, probably. Or like Melody said, no comment. Because Nell Fletcher was trying to say that she was a mentor to Melody. And Mel's like, who did you mentor? Mentor who? Now, I'll say this, right? When she did give her credit that she was a listening ear, because when she was going through all that mess with Martell, they did seek the counsel of Chris and Nell Fletcher. However, I think that, a lot of people, probably including Nell, expected Melody to stay. Like Chris was saying, he turned to Martell in the flashback scene. He's like, you have to own it like I did. You have to own your mistake of stepping out on your marriage. And Nell and they turn to Melody. They're like, but the woman also has to compromise the lies you tell. Okay. I'm with Melody. I feel like adultery is one of the few things, and I know Mel's a Christian, that in the Bible, it even says, that gives you an out of your marriage if you should so choose to leave. Like, adultery is serious. So the fact that they were telling her to compromise and stay with her cheating, no good husband further lets me know that, maybe their friendship isn't, maybe they've grown apart. Maybe they're just two different people. Melody is focused on her business. She's like, I have my God to turn to, my therapist, my mother. And Nell Fletcher, she was upset because she was confronted. And I'm sure that Nell does not like confrontation. People, in my opinion, who scream and yell and do all that stuff, most of the times they're the most fragile. They're the ones who are the softest. What is it that saying? The loudest wagon holds the least amount of weight to it. And I'm not saying that Nell is weightless, but what I am saying is she, in my opinion, comes across as someone who is very fragile. And a lot of that yelling and screaming that she does covers up the fact that she would get so upset for someone just forgetting a little name tag on a St. Thomas trip. Let's keep going. Speaking of fragility, we have Maurice and Kimmi. So Maurice gets arrested for a DUI, and he is someone else, in my opinion, who has a very fragile ego. So, she let us know that when he didn't come home initially, first she thought he was sleeping at the office. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, like, we didn't even know that he doesn't come home regularly. Like, he sleeps at the office, because she was like, where was he? And he said that, he was really embarrassed that he had to call his wife. But she was asking, well, how can I help you? And instead of saying, you can be supportive, thank you for being there, thank you for, coming to bail me out, please keep the situation a prayer, we can go to counseling together, something constructive, Maurice was like, I don't think you can help me. And you know what? He knows himself better than anyone else. So if he looked his wife in the face, because at first he even deflected her question, he answered her question with a question. He didn't even want to talk about it. But listen, he says that he doesn't think that she can help him. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe she can't help Maurice. So in the next scene, we have Ken and Trish. So Ken and Trish, they just bought a house together, and they had a graduation celebration for their son Xavier, who graduated high school. And Trish, she said, she invited her husband Marquez. And she said, that he didn't have gas money, so they gave him gas money. And I'm like, Lord, she put that man all the way out on blast, didn't she? She's like, I should have made his little behind walk. But when he got there, he looked at Ken and he said, thanks for coming. And Ken was like, what are you talking about? Like, we did this. You didn't put in on this celebration, man. This is us. I feel like Marquez probably felt so emasculated that him turning to Ken and say, thanks for coming, probably is him trying to at least attempt to level the playing field. Because if he didn't even have gas money to get to his son's graduation, then he's probably feeling less of, the lowest of the low. So in the next scene, we have Chris and Nell Fletcher, and they are at the Fred Astaire Studios, and they're learning the cha-cha to dance at their wedding vow renewal ceremony, which we don't know when that is, but congratulations to Chris and Nell. So Nell is telling Chris that after she left Melody's house and after Mel, confronted her with that interview, she said the more that she thought about it, the more that it really bothered her. She was saying that she felt like she did mentor Mel and Martell, I guess, to the best of her ability, right? But she said, Melody doesn't like to be told anything negative. That, maybe she should have said Martell was draining, but she didn't feel like she was really at fault. So she was letting her true feelings known to her husband. Again, I just think they're like, they just see things from different angles. I can see where Melody told, Nell Fletcher, if somebody has something disparaging to say or ask about me, next time just say no comment, right? I think that Nell is, she's from a generation where She was raised to be male centered, and she's never going to leave Chris no matter what he does. And I feel like he knows that. Whereas Melody, she had more of a, I don't want to say more of a backbone, but more of a will to leave a relationship that wasn't benefiting her. So I feel like that might really be something that's upsetting to Nell Fletcher, that she doesn't relate to that. And so I feel like they've just probably grown apart. They can be cordial, but I don't know if their friendship is necessarily something that can be mended outside of some serious therapy and healing. So the episode ends on on a more positive note, right? So Melody has a community dinner and she's giving back to the community. She has spaghetti and rolls and green beans, and she rents out a gym. So I think that's really sweet. And so Chinita is there to help serve the food to the community members, and they come out. And Melody is talking about how, initially when this show first came together, when the Core Six first came together, this was supposed to be representative of Black excellence, of, business minded men and women, entrepreneurship, things like that, right? And she said that it's been mugshot after mugshot after mugshot. She's like, what are we doing here, right? She said that she lost her grandmother to a drunk driver. And she was like, wow. And she's like, what really upset me, though, is the very next day, Maurice was online on social media with a bottle of liquor in his hand. And all his friends were like, free Reese, free Reese. Like they were making a joke out of the whole entire situation. And I can see that, right? Like that would be troubling. And I feel like that sends the wrong message to a lot of young people, especially since Maurice, when he first came on the show, she said that he was giving Martin Luther King Jr. speeches. I don't even know what reunion it was, but the shady producers flashed back to him talking about perseverance and resilience. And Melody said, okay, enough with the Martin Luther King Jr. speeches. She's like, I don't want to hear another speech. I don't want to hear another. She's like, I don't want to hear another peep about respectability politics from Maurice Scott. She's like, you're not someone who should hold themselves up to this, extremely high standard of being a role model in the community. Listen, it would be one thing if after he was arrested, he, kind of laid low, or he would have taken accountability or whatever the case may be, right? But the very next day, like 24 hours later, he was back at his brother's bar, Black, with a big bottle of liquor in his hand, partying and doing the most. Now, I could get that if he was like 21, kind of, sort of, right? Because when you're young, you do stupid things like that. But Maurice is twice married, has multiple kids, a lawyer. I still don't know what kind of law he practices, but that's neither here nor there. But again, like she said, if you're going to be someone who holds themselves to this extremely high standard and giving Martin Luther King Jr. speeches, then you should not be on social media the very next day with a huge bottle of liquor in your hand talking about some free Reese. That took me out. That was hilarious. But anyway, so they give a snippet into next week where the ladies are working out, and so Mel's telling Kimmi that, when your spouse is out here being reckless, she's like, I know that does affect you. And Kimmi's just, kind of listening. And she's like, oh, I know Kimmi was upset. Was it the middle of the day? Because I do remember a lot of people were talking about the time of day that he was picked up, that Maurice was picked up for his DUI. And she's like, oh, I know Kimmi is not happy. And Kimmi, she just sat there and listened. She didn't have a response. So next week we will hear what she has to say in response. But this show is definitely taking a different turn than what it started out originally, or at least ideally, right? What it was supposed to be. But anyway, you guys, let me know your thoughts. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, Aces. Bye.